Victoria, can you go through the streets of America chanting "Globalize the Intifada"? Is that fine?
Well,
it's free speech, right?
Yeah, you can because it's free speech, but it'll definitely raise some alarms for people, and see who you're associating with.
So just enlighten me. When it comes to the First Amendment and free speech, are there any limits? Can I walk down the streets and say, call for the murder of some political figure?
Well, you can, right? Because you've seen, for example, it was Kathy Griffith back in the day
so-called comedian.
Right, and she had the Trump severed head that she was holding up, and so of course there's a limit of free speech versus, of course, what can be broadcast on TV. So the FCC does, control somewhat what does get broadcast, and of course we're seeing some of that debate right now with Jimmy Kimmel. Of course, the day before, I believe, the White House Correspondents' Dinner last week, he had basically called Melania, I believe it was an expectant widow was the phrase, and of course that ended up being almost terrifyingly prophetic with the events of last Saturday. But when it comes to things like the FCC, of course, there's this debate, right? Because now Trump and Melania have both called for Kimmel to be canceled. And he is saying that it is within his free speech rights to say what he does on his show, even though a lot of people will find that, abhorrent, frankly. And then, of course, there is, some limits on schools, particularly K through 12. And, of course, some of that debate on what is and cannot be allowed on college campuses when somebody's free speech, particularly in the case of Jewish students, is seen as a threat, primarily, free speech in the case of these, pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian activists, particularly on college campuses. Jewish students see that as a threat, and of course, where does that, freedom versus security debate?
Can they go around college campuses saying "globalize the Intifada"?
Yeah, they do, absolutely.
Right.